Today I'm sharing how you can create stunning minimalist art designs using nothing but the Selector tool. So minimalist art is all about doing more with less. So I'm going to show you 5 effortless yet stunning minimalist designs you can create using nothing but the Lasso tool, also called the Selector tool. So grab your iPad and let's try it. So I'm starting off with a blank canvas. I've set it to 8.5 inches by 11 inches, just a standard paper size, so that if you wanted to print these off, you can print them off easily. And it's a great size if you just want to print them off with your home printer, if you have one, assuming you have one. And we are just going to be using the Selector tool to create our designs. I'll be using this color palette that I've named Boho Minimalist Art, and I'll link that one down below so that you can use it as well. And then again, the only tool we're going to use is the Selector tool, and we might use the Move and Transform tool a little bit, but we're going to stick with the Selector tool to start. So for our first project, we're going to create a very simple design. We're going to use the Ellipse Selector tool. So I've got ellipse selected here, and I'm going to tap on color fill to make sure that every time I use it, it fills in the color for us. And to start, I'm just going to choose this kind of sage green. I've got 2 sage greens that are fairly similar, and then a dark sage, and that's kind of going to be our color palette for the entire illustration. So we'll start off by creating one circle, and I'm going to center it, and it's going to be kind of in the lower half of our canvas here. And I'll go back to my selector. I'm going to go to rectangle, but I'll turn off color fill because I want to just remove half of this. And if it's not exact, that's okay, but I will be now cutting out that top half of my circle. So now I just have a half circle here. This illustration is very simple because all I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this half circle and then stack them on top. And this is a very common minimalist design, stacking up these half circles. And I'm going to change the color of the second one to this darker sage, and then I will duplicate this one at the bottom again, and then duplicate it one more time. Before I let it go, I'm just going to resize these so they can fit a little bit better on my canvas. And so this top one will fit nicely on top. I'm going to change the color of that top one to the second sage. It does all look very similar, but those are different sage colors, and it's just to add a little slight variation in the color. And this one's almost done, so the last thing I want to do is just change the background color. So I will go to background color, and I'm just going to choose this kind of slate color here. And now we have a beautiful minimalist design, and it took no time at all, and all we used was the Selector tool and the Move and Transform tool, and I think it's beautiful, and this would be great to print out and put up in your home. This next illustration is again very abstract but a little bit more organic because we're going to use the freehand Selector tool with the color fill turned on again. And we are going to just be making some blobs, and we'll add a little bit of texture to it, but we're just gonna add some artful blobs all over our screen and make a very abstract and organic type of minimalist art, but we're gonna make it very colorful. And you can do this in any colors that you'd like, just kind of wanna make it as harmonious as you can. And I've got sort of this salmon orange selected, and with my Selector tool, I will just create my first blob. And then once you create your loop, you just want to make sure you tap on the dot so that it stays in place. Turning off the Selector tool and turning back on again is sometimes important so that you don't accidentally change the color of the shape that you made. So I will choose my next color, which is this green, grab my Selector tool, and make my next blob. And I'm just going to keep going. I'm going to create my blobs, and then we'll add a little bit of texture to some areas on here. So this is very abstract. I've got everything in one layer, and it's okay to see some of the background peeking out. There's really no rules on how to complete this. So now we're just going to create some details on some of these blobs here. So this first one I will focus on, and I will choose a sort of white cream color, grab my selector tool again, and just make some circles going all the way around it. So you'll notice that on each little circle, I complete it by tapping on that dot. That's so it doesn't continue the selection in a different spot. So if I were to not complete that and I try to make a new one, it's going to create a lasso going between each of those shapes, and it might not look the way you want it to. I'm just gonna erase those by choosing that background color behind it, and now they're gone. And I'll just continue that, and I'll add some shapes to a couple more with some contrasting colors. So for this one, I've made all my little small blobs inside there, and I want to feather each of those so that it adds a little bit of a different texture. So I'm going to tap on feather and then just turn it up to about 10% and then turn that off, and it's created kind of like a hazy dot, but it definitely adds a little bit of texture and depth to this. So now I'm going to just finish a couple more of these. Now our illustration's almost done, so I'm just going to choose a background color for this one as well, and I'm just going to choose that same kind of cream color. And now that is a very abstract, minimalist piece, and I think it looks kind of cool and funky, and we've even added a little bit more extra shape to this one. It's really fun to just play with abstract shapes, and the colors contrast beautifully, and this is another great piece with just the lasso tool. So now I want to try a little bit more of a botanical design. So to start, I'm just going to create kind of like a sun in the middle with the ellipse tool, and I've got my color filter on, and I will just make a circle that can represent our sun. I want to choose a different color, and I want to add a little bit of feather to the center. So I've got a lighter yellow here or a lighter orange here, and I'll make a smaller dot, and then I'll just turn on the feather just to kind of create some brightness to that center. And so now it looks like a very pretty orb that we've created easily with that selector tool and using the feather and a lighter color. It's a great trick to creating a sort of sphere. So now I will add a new layer on top of that and choose a dark green kind of teal. Grab our selector tool and go to freehand. And now we kind of want to just freehand a botanical sort of leaf. And so I'll just go through and I'll just add some leafy shapes to this. And now that's a very interesting kind of leaf. Using that selector tool, it's going to be very bumpy, but that kind of adds to the abstractness to it. And we've got a little bit of curling there, but I think it's very pretty. And I'm just going to duplicate that layer, and I will flip it vertically and horizontally, and we'll put it to the lower half of our image here to sort of mirror it, and choose a background color. And we'll go ahead and grab that light cream color. Now we have a very botanical illustration, knowing that all we used was the selector tool to create a botanical design, I think is totally great. And now let's go ahead and make a sun shape. So I'm gonna grab that deep orange again to be the center of our sun. And I will make another ellipse, but I'm going to make it at the bottom of this. And I want to just use the lower half of my paper just to go off the edge, and that was a really simple way to create a sun. And we can also do that trick with the feather and the lighter color. Turn on feather, and we've got another beautifully highlighted sun very easily with the selector tool and using that feather. So that's going to be the basis of our sun. And so now I want to radiate sun rays coming out of this. And this can be kind of tricky, and we have to be kind of okay with each of our rays not maybe being the same width as each other going all the way around. But again, this is abstract and there's no rules. So this can look however it does at the end of this. So we're just going to go through and select different colors and alternate them as sun rays going around. So let's start off with kind of like a dark blue, and these ones will be easy down here. And so we'll grab the freehand tool with color fill turned on, and just make a rectangle that is wider at the top than it is where it meets the sun. And we'll choose our next color, and I'll choose this kind of dark rose color. And I'm just going to start behind my sun, just go off the canvas to the side, tap above it, and then meet it back down behind that sun. And we'll choose our next color. I'll choose that same orange as the sun, start off behind it, go up, and meet back down. And these can be in different widths going all the way around, but you kind of just want to make sure that you are overlapping them a little bit so we don't get any gaps. But if you have gaps, that's okay. Again, no rules. So I'm just gonna go around my sun and create all of the sun rays radiating around, and I'll meet you back at the other side. So now I've gone about halfway around, and I'm just going to simplify life by duplicating that and mirroring it and just moving it to the other side. And then I'll just create a ray going up the center, and I'll just use the same color as I have on these two sides. And so I will just create my sun ray by overlapping that and closing it together. So I'm just going to add one more final detail to this by choosing that cream color and then grabbing my ellipse again and having this below my sun layer. And I'm just going to create an ellipse right below that, and I am going to move it and sort of resize it a little bit. I'll choose freeform to resize it just so that it kind of adds like a barrier between the sun rays and my actual sun. And now we have a really pretty and abstract, colorful sun with beams of light radiating around the center of our sun. If you wanted, you could add strips of that white cream going up like that, but just like this is totally fine. And I think it's really pretty, and it's kind of Art Deco. I kind of like the Art Deco. It kind of mixes Art Deco with minimalist, and it's a good one. So I want to try one final minimalist art style, and I want to do a kind of Aztec theme. And this one's great because we can just do one quadrant of our page here and then just duplicate it. I'm going to go ahead and turn on a drawing guide by going to actions and then canvas and then turn on my drawing guide. I'm going to go to edit drawing guide and I'll go to symmetry options and then do quadrant. So now I have 4 quadrants that I can just do my art in one and then multiply it across. So I will hit done. I've got drawing assist turned on, but heads up, drawing assist doesn't work when you're using the lasso tool, so we will have to complete our artwork in one quadrant and then duplicate it across. So even though we've got drawing assist turned on, it's not going to do much for us here. And I'm going to start off by choosing my background color, and I kind of have this slate color. I used it in that first one, and it's going to help us a little bit because it's going to help us out a little bit with the layering of this illustration. So on my first layer, I will choose my rectangle selector with my color fill turned on, and I want this dusty kind of rose color chosen. And we are going to do this one in layers, so let's start with our first layer. And I'm just going to go up into this top quadrant because this is where all of our work is going to be done for the most part. And so now I'm just going to start placing some rectangles to create a sort of Aztec design. So I want to place my first rectangle down, and I'm just going to fill about 1/4 of this first quadrant here. And that's going to be the start to our sort of Aztec design. And just keep in mind, because we are using the selector tool, this isn't going to be very precise, but it's still going to achieve that look. So now I'll just start creating a little bit of like a ladder or like a staircase look. So I'm just going to start placing some more rectangles to achieve that Aztec look. this is a pretty good start. And now I'm going to take away a little bit of the side here, and I'm going to do that by adding a new layer, and I'm going to choose the same color as my background. And I'm just going to create a square. So I'll use my selector tool to create a square, and I'll just do it right here so I can see it. And I want it to be a perfect square, so I'm gonna, once I've created that, I'll tap on Move and Transform, and I will make sure that the dimensions are equal. And somehow I was able to achieve a perfect square, 837 pixels by 837 pixels, and that was by complete luck. So good luck with that. But if you need to create your perfect square, you just want to tap on a corner with the Move and Transform tool, and then tap on Unlink so that you can make both of these dimensions the same, and you'll have a square. So now I want to take this square and I want to rotate it 45 degrees. So I'll just tap on that little green dot and enter in my angle that I want to rotate it by, and I'm going to put that right there. Now that I have that placed, I just want to make it a little bit bigger, so I'm going to go back to Move and Transform and make sure Uniform is selected. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger, and that's perfect right there. So now I just want to add one more detail before we start multiplying this across our screen. So I want to add a new layer and create another square. And I don't think I'll make this one perfect like the last one, but I'll do my best. So I've got my square, then I'll tap on Move and Transform and tap on one of these blue dots, and it's not perfect. So I'm just gonna tap on Unlink, and then I will change this one to 945 so that it is a perfect square. And then I will just tap on my Move and Transform again, hit that green rotation button and tap 45 again. And I want to move this up here, but this is too big, so I want to make it smaller, and I'll just make sure that it's set to uniform again. We've got the final detail of this design. Since that square is going across the two quadrants here, I'm just going to duplicate that and move it down so that part is mirrored very simply. And now with these two layers that make up this portion, I'm going to flatten those. So with that flattened layer, I'm just going to duplicate it, and then I am going to flip it vertically and then move it down to the quadrant below. One thing I'm noticing is that they're not matching up perfectly, so I'm just going to close that with a little bit of that red color and just filling it like that. And so now that those ones are placed, I'm just going to flatten that, duplicate it, and then flip it horizontally and share that across my screen here. And now once I turn off my drawing guide, again, I'll see that it's not matching up quite there, so I will just fill that in again with the lasso tool. We're not going to use any other tool but the lasso tool, and we'll just fill in this little gap that was created. And there, that is a really pretty Aztec design. It was really simple, just using that lasso tool and the Move and Transform tool, and using that drawing guide made it super simple. So thank you so much for watching. I hope this has inspired you to try these unconventional tools to create really pretty art here in Procreate. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to explore more ways you can maximize Procreate's built-in features, check out my playlist. It's called Using Procreate's Built-in Features Only, and I've linked it right here in the screen, and it's packed with tips and tricks to help you unlock your full creative potential here in Procreate. So if you like this video, please hit that like button, and if you would like to watch more videos like this one, go ahead and hit subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye!